All right, everybody. We are at Calgary Barbell HQ. Can't you tell? Anyways, welcome back to Form Check Friday, the first one in a minute. It's been a hot minute since we've done one of these. We took some holidays, shame on us, but we took some time off. We put a lot of work into getting the HQ and the space ready to go. We're almost there. Hopefully next week we'll be doing some more other YouTube content. We'll let you guys in on how things have been going at the space, maybe do some training log stuff, and just kind of get back into the swing of things. We streamed today for the first time from HQ. So if you're interested in our live streams, come on by twitch.tv/Calgary Barbell, and we do these live. You can submit on the fly and we will do them up for you. But without any further ado, let's get stuck in here. So we're going to start off with Tim. Now, we left off with Tim last time. So Tim is 18. He's been training powerlifting for 2 months, lifted through high school, comp bench, triple at 7. He says his bench can improve the most technically, he figures. He's most concerned about his sort of foot position and leg drive. Now, honestly, Tim, if your bench is a lift that can improve technically the most, I'm going to guess you're a pretty sound lifter across the board, because this actually looks quite good. The only thing I would say here is that maybe we're a little, like a touch heavy on the touch. But other than that, I think we're doing a great job. So probably what I would recommend is some Spoto press to work on decelerating that bar on the way down a little bit. So there's a little bit more control in like that last inch before the chest. In terms of foot position and stuff, I think what we're doing here will apply a lot of leg drive, but the mistake a lot of people make is that when they put their butt down, it ends up coming back out this way. And then see, you readjust your feet after you put your butt down. You're losing tension because you create a lot of tension here. Watch his feet. And then you put your butt down, and then you readjust your feet out this way, away from where you created that pressure and that tension. So I think if we're going to do that sort of butt up setup, then we got to keep the foot tension. We got to keep the foot placement when we come back down. Otherwise, we're just losing some of that tension and leg drive that we're setting up in. So those would be probably the two biggest things that I would tackle, Tim. All right, and up next, we've got Will doing some deadlifts. Now, Will said he's been lifting for about 4 years now. He says he stayed relatively light for sports. He didn't want to get too heavy and lose, sacrifice agility, speed, jumping, all that kind of stuff. But he feels like that's left him at a bit of a disadvantage now, where he feels like his lifts would be progressing better if he had a little bit more muscle mass on him. So he says he weighs 80 kilos now, and that he feels his technique is good, but he figures he might be missing a little bit of muscle mass. Now, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing here, Will, is that we're not applying a whole lot of pressure to the floor as we pull the hips down into position. Obviously, we got to give you a lot of props for the nice Calgary Barbell shirt there. We're going to have some more apparel coming to you very soon. It is actually behind this green screen right now, so that's exciting. We have a place to launch it from. It's just a matter of getting around to doing some promo for it and showing you all how sick it is. But all right, so as you pull your hips down into position, at this point, we should already be applying a ton of pressure down into the floor to try to create all that quad tension as we begin the lift. Now, the next thing I'm seeing is that as we come up off the floor, we're getting pulled forward over the bar slightly. So I think we can brace the upper back a little tighter. We can pull the shoulder blades sort of down towards the hips and the low back better. And I also think we're seeing a little bit of that knee cave, right? So either we need to maybe start with a narrower stance, or we need to keep those knees out harder as we initiate the lift. And all that's going to kind of go hand in hand with pushing or pulling the slack out of the bar. So creating more tension before the pull. The second rep goes a little bit better because you do a little bit better job of pulling the slack out of the bar. The third rep, again, goes a little bit better, but it's getting pretty tough by this point. So I don't know if necessarily muscle mass is like the only thing holding you back, but generally speaking, as a powerlifter, if you can get yourself into even a slight surplus, that's going to allow you to recover at a better rate. It's going to allow you to get more out of your training. And generally speaking, we're going to do better. We're going to perform better. We're going to train better, at least in a slight surplus. So if you've kind of changed your priorities and you're interested in gaining some weight, we've got some great videos on the channel. If you just look up Calgary Barbell weight gain, we've got some really good detailed nutritional tutorials on the channel that'll help you sort of set your macros and all that kind of stuff, and how to monitor and adjust your calorie levels as you go. So lots of cool stuff that you can check out there. But if gaining weight is a route you're interested in going, then I would definitely recommend checking out some of those videos. All right, so up next, this is Al. So Al's 56. He says he's been powerlifting for 2 years. His primary goal is health and strength, but he's also got a meet, I think, coming up in March here, he mentioned in his email. So he sort of self-diagnosed as, his issue was hitting the hole too hard, which caused him to lose upper back tightness. The bar would pull him forward. So now Al's working on doing some pause squats, working on some eccentric tempo work, which is a really smart strategy as far as I'm concerned. Those are the things that I would generally recommend a lifter check out and try to work on specifically for those issues, right? If we're hitting the hole too hard, how do we adjust? How do we get better at that specific portion of the lift? And a lot of the times it's things like this. So what he's concerned with, though, is that his pause squats might not be to full depth. And I think there's a couple different ways we can sort of approach this. Number one, we don't necessarily need our pause squats to be to comp depth, right? A lot of the times we're going to be a lot tighter in the bottom position of a paused squat than we would be in the bottom position of a comp squat. We're not utilizing that stretch reflex. Therefore, we might be slightly higher in a paused squat. So if I see a lifter of mine pause squatting to about this level, I'm not initially very concerned, because generally speaking, when we add that little bit of a tempo, that little bit of stretch reflex back in, that kind of solves the problem. However, you can absolutely sit deeper in a paused squat. There could be a case to be made for better specificity, better transference by squatting slightly deeper in the paused squat, but it's going to depend on the lifter, and I think it's worth sort of experimenting in either way to see, what ends up providing the best outcome. But based on this, looking at these, I wouldn't say like, oh, we really have to work on our squat depth. It's like, you're creating a lot of tension, you're pausing slightly higher than depth. It's probably okay. But I would have to see your comp squat to really make a good judgment on that. Now, the other thing that you mentioned is that when you hit the hole too hard, this bar throws you forward. So one of the things I might try to do is mess around with this bar position. If you can get this bar slightly further down your back, I think it might create a bit more stable shelf. I think it might reduce that bar rolling forward on you. And also, I would cue yourself to make sure you're maintaining a heck of a lot, of upper back tightness as you get into the bottom and as you change directions out of the bottom, because a lot of the times that's part of the cause for getting pulled forward, is a lapse or a short break in tightness of the upper back. Generally speaking, we need to loosen a bit in sort of the lower part of the brace and the hips to get to depth, but we should really be focusing on maintaining as much as we can this upper back, even at the bottom position of the squat. So from these pause squats, I don't see anything really problematic, but keep all of that in mind, and all the best of luck with your competition, Al. I hope you crush it. All right, up next is Asad. So he's been lifting for 5 years, 3 years of powerlifting focus, sort of specifically. Good steady progress, he says, on his squat and deadlift. Gotten, I think, about 30 kilos, thereabouts on those lifts. But he says his bench has only gone up 5 kilos in 3 years. So he says it's never really felt comfortable, feels really inconsistent. And he says that when he widens the grip, he gets issues in his right shoulder. So this is an AMRAP with 95 kilos, and there's already a few things I can pick out. So number one, we're really flaring the elbows as we go through this whole process, right? There's not a lot of tightness in the upper back. I think we can pull the shoulder blades together a lot more. I think we can pull the shoulder blades down more. We can drive the chest up higher using the legs. And then as we begin the descent, we're really, really pushing the elbows out. Now, if we go with a wider grip and the elbows go out even further, we're ending up in this really internally rotated position. So I can see maybe why the shoulder's giving you problems with a wider grip. And I think it's due to the lack of elbow tuck. So let's just not even talk about the grip width for now. Let's just get you more comfortable with benching as a movement. And then down the road, if you still feel you're inconsistent, then maybe you go back and you try the wider grip with some better fundamentals. But for now, we have to learn to tuck the elbows a little bit on the way down. That's going to be part and parcel with setting the shoulder position. I think once the shoulder position is set, it's going to feel way more natural to have that elbow slightly internally rotated, or externally rotated, sorry. The shoulder and upper arm externally rotated at the shoulder joint. So that little bit of elbow tuck is going to allow your elbows to stay slightly in front of the bar. And then when you press, that bar is going to naturally kind of fall backwards, back over the shoulder joint, which is kind of the ideal bar path for a good solid bench press. So I think one of the reasons we're seeing and feeling that inconsistency is because we're really flared out. The upper back isn't really set, and you're also kind of settling and resting on your chest instead of using a more intentional and controlled pause. So there's three sort of big things there. Number one, let's fix this upper back position. Let's get your shoulders really pulled back and pulled down so we get that chest up. Let's use your legs to help that setup. And then number two, let's keep those elbows tucked in a little bit as we bench, as opposed to being out here. We want them to be in here, right? We want those elbows tucked in a little bit so they're slightly in front of the bar. And then number three, let's learn to keep the weight of the bar in your hands and not rest it on your chest during the pause. I want that pause to be more intentional, and I want that pause to be more controlled. I think if you can nail those three things, or even get better at those three things, you're going to see a huge increase in your consistency, and you're probably going to start seeing some more gains on the old deadlift. Okay, hold on. Before we get to Peter here, I just want to take a quick second and let y'all know about the Calgary Barbell Training app. It's a very feature-rich program library that we've put together. It contains, I think, about 24 programs. We're going to be adding, how many variations? Anyways, we're going to be adding the Next Path Powerlifting series in the next week or so. So there is sort of a laid out set and continuous programming course to follow through it. There's also all kinds of power building. There's one for coming back from a big break or getting sick or whatever to try to get strength levels back up. Anyways, so we have the app. It has programming in it. It's going to help you navigate RPEs and estimated 1-rep maxes and give you suggested loads. It's also going to come with membership to our exclusive Discord community, wherein I go in and do form checks just like this one for the entire community once or twice a week. We have an exclusive live stream for the app users. And we also help people modify the programs as necessary to make sure that they're getting the most out of them and to tailor them to people's individual needs in terms of injury history or discomfort and pain in movements, as well as equipment restrictions and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, go into the description box below, check it out. We're really proud of what we built. We're continuing to work on it and make it better and better and better. There's going to be recipes and exclusive videos and all that kind of stuff included in it. Sorry, I'm gushing a little bit because I'm excited. I like this app. I think it's a good product. People really like it. People are getting a lot out of it. Anyways, we'll leave it at that. Check out the Calgary Barbell Training app, and we're going to move to Peter's deadlifts now. So, Peter says he trained mostly with like bodybuilding stuff for a long time and started powerlifting just a month ago. So this is very new. And this is his 145 kilo 1RM. So Peter, let's take a look, man. Looks like we're really high hipped. We're really wide stanced. The knees are kind of bowed inwards. We haven't really set the upper back at all. So there's a lot to work on here. Now, we are going to be making a definitive guide to conventional deadlifts, but I think any conventional lifter, yourself included, can go check out our definitive guide to sumo deadlifts. Take any of those principles there other than stance width, and it's going to carry over pretty much seamlessly and flawlessly. It's the same process of trying to set the upper back, pull into tension, create that tight position as opposed to thinking about hip height necessarily. So One of the things we need to do here is we need to probably narrow the stance a little bit. I think if we narrow the stance, we're going to be able to get the knees out. We need to pull the hips down and back more to get a bit more of an upright back position. And then we need to learn how to tighten the upper back and use the lats to pull that bar in close and to brace a relatively neutral position with the upper back. So there's a whole lot of different things sort of at play here. But those would be kind of the biggest points I would hit right away. So number one, let's narrow the stance a little bit. Number two, let's push the knees out a little bit, because you can see the hips shoot up even more and we're just totally stiff legging this. So the other thing I would do is maybe we don't need to hit 1 rep maxes right away, right? Maybe we need to just like practice with some reasonable weights, you know, use 60 or 70%, get comfortable with the technique, get comfortable and consistent with the movement, and then progress that and just watch your strength explode. But don't get caught up in chasing numbers right off the hop. Now, the caveat to that is that, yes, it is powerlifting. Yes, we want you to lift heavy. I'm not saying you need to use a dowel until you can do it perfectly, but let's incorporate the idea that it is skills practice as much as strength training. So I think we also really overextend on that lockout there. So yeah, man. In this position, when we start the deadlift, where do we start it? Okay, there. So we're starting from here. We've got really high hips. We need to sit those down. The knees are really far back. We need those forward more. The feet are quite wide. We probably need those narrower. And if you look at it from the front, your knees probably look like this. We want to try to get those lower limb, the shin, to be more straight up and down. Once we can get that, we start working on the upper back and finding that bracing, that tightness in the lats before we push it off the floor. And then we've got ourselves a deadlift. But take your time, watch some videos, some tutorials, and try to fine tune your technique and your position, and a little bit of patience, both in training and off the floor. All right, we got Eric doing some squats now. So Eric's been lifting about 5 years, and he says that knee pain kept him away completely from squatting for a while. So he's reintroducing it now. This is 120 kilos for a set of 5 with a long pause on the last rep. He made sure to note that that was intentional. He says he really doesn't feel much in the quads when he squats. He's concerned about how much his hips are shooting back and shooting up. He says he gets a lot of low back stress with heavier weights. He ends up with what he calls a crazy low back pump from squatting. So I want everybody here to... We're just going to watch through this video one more time. And I'm sure that everybody out there has at some point dealt with either in their own training or training partner or seen me talk about or whatever. But I think everybody's kind of dealt with this like squat morning idea. So what were some of the cues or exercises or ways of thinking about the lift that helped you overcome this squat morning, the hips shooting up, maybe some low back pressure, extra work, not really feeling much in the quads? What were the things that helped you break past that, or somebody that you know that got past that sort of technical plateau? What are the cues? What are the exercises? Let us know in the comment section below what y'all think will help our guy Eric here. And I'm going to start next episode, next Friday, with Eric as well. Yeah, that's it. I hope everybody had a great break and holidays of whatever variety you choose to celebrate, and got to see some family and friends in whatever way they were able to or chose to. So, all right, take it easy, and we'll see y'all a lot more often on the YouTubes soon. That's it. We're out from Calgary Barbell HQ. Bye.